Let's make sure I'm in the right place. There we go. I know I have to approve. Or maybe it's not requiring an approving. Okay, so let me just see if I can see myself. Again, as you know, I'm having to go under my maiden name, which is so funny. This is just crazy. Yeah, all right. So I'm just waiting for this approval to come across. Okay, come on. This all just takes time and it's like, oh. All right, let me see here. Okay, here it is. The pending post. I was waiting for that. Okay. Okay, we should be live now. All right, here we are. 3-day 3-day recap. Try to say that 3 times fast, right? Okay, so lots of material to cover. Get comfy, find a place to kind of put your feet up and hang out with me. We're going to go over a lot of good stuff. I just want to make sure that this is actually working. Yes. Right on, right on. Okay, let's rock and roll because we got a lot of stuff to go over. So my name's Kelly Dunlap. If you don't already know that, I'm a mindset metabolism coach. I'm an NLP coach, fat loss, hormonal coach. And my signature program is the Metabolism Reboot Academy, which you've probably seen a lot of that recently within the last couple of days. So, all right, rock on. Let me go ahead and share my screen. I'm so excited. I just love this stuff because it's so life-changing, for so many people to hear a lot of this information. And I don't know why this doesn't want to open. I'm like, okay, what's going on here? I should have had this open before. So, all right. My apologies. Say hello when you hop on. And I don't know why my look at that wheel. My new laptop just came in yesterday. As a matter of fact, I was so excited. At the time I was napping. I'm like, who in the heck is ringing my doorbell? And then I was like, oh, it's my new laptop. Yay, So, all right, let me go back to day 1 here. And then we're going to get going. All right, here we are. Cool. Okay, so day 1, optimizing your metabolism. And again, we're going to go over all 3 days. So make sure that you get comfortable, and we're going to be spending some good quality time together. So this is kind of like this 3-day thing is going to be kind of like a master class for you. You're going to learn a lot. All right. So in the day 1, we talked about hormones and the role that they play. We talked about calories and what they should consist of, and your environment and how your environment affects everything. And what's the secret? The secret is balanced hormones, because when your hormones are balanced and your body has that homeostasis and that balance going on, it feels safe and it feels comfortable with wanting to release weight. So one overlooked big, huge thing is the to weight loss resistance is the hormones being imbalanced. And I find that addressing the hormonal imbalance really, really helps my clients lose that stubborn weight. And so if you're somebody that has had a difficult time with losing weight, you can't put your finger on it. You just don't know what the heck is going on. I am pretty certain it has to do with your hormones. And we're going to get more deep into the hormones here in a moment. But I want you to understand that hormones are messengers. So I want you to think of hormones are like the body's internal postal service, because what they do is it's kind of like they send letters to each other, like, oh, hey, thyroid, do this, or hey, pancreas, do that. Or, so there's all of this communication going on a constant basis. And what I want to talk to you a lot about today is that, when it comes to weight loss, yes, calories matter, but hormones really, in my opinion, because listen, I want to share this point too, that what you're going to learn today is based off of my experience, my education, and also my experience with myself and also with my clients, but also learning this information from my particular mentors. But I want to share this. What the important point is that you have to figure out what works best for you. Like my husband had said to me the other day, he said, I'm just really confused because one guy said this to do your cardio after your weights, and another guy said this. And I said, I'm so glad you brought that up, honey. I said, because this is something that I always share with people is, listen, take the information and then figure out which one works best for you. You are going to find very different polarized opinions. So you might hear somebody tomorrow say the exact opposite of what I'm sharing with you today, because that is what they understand to be true and what they feel works, right? So we all have our own opinion based on our experiences and view of the world. So take this information and then apply it to you and see what works, right? So back to this picture, you're probably thinking like, what does this have to do with anything? And what I want to talk about is that calories matter, hormones matter more, equally important, whichever. I say more though. And at the time I put equally important. But calories impact hormones and hormones impact calories. And why I use this picture here, these two pictures, is because hormones are like humans. Depending on the environment that they are around will depend on how they act. So for example, the people on the right, they're at a toga party, they act a certain way, they're dressed a certain way, they're, probably hooting and hollering and carrying on and, like different music playing than if they were at a black tie event. So when you're at a black tie event, you act more refined. You act a little different behavior. You're not going to be beer bonging and standing on the table and, doing all kinds of crazy things, right? However, if, the people that are at the black tie event went to the toga, they would act differently. So that's what I want to into your head, is that you are in control of the impact that the hormones have on your body based on how you live your life and the foods that you eat. So I hope that makes sense. So in other words, you are continuously creating an environment for your hormones, and you have a choice on how and what that environment is. So a lot of times people say, oh, my hormones are out of whack. And I just want to share with you, like, don't always jump to the hormone. We have to take a step back and we have to consider the variables that do affect the hormones. And what are those variables? So those variables are your caloric intake, your carb intake, if you have too many carbs, too little carbs, your stress management, and your overall lifestyle choices. So everyone talks about their body like it's working against them. I hear it all the time. I just don't understand. I'm doing everything, da, 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 da. But our body is doing exactly what it is designed to do. And I just saw a typo there. What it's designed to do, and that is to survive and reproduce. So if you start to think about your body in the sense of a very well evolved machine, the skin suit, as I call it, if you look at it in that way and kind of respect the fact that this device that we live in and that we walk around in every day, it has been around for millions of years, and it has evolved, and your body is extremely intelligent and extremely smart, and it wants to always reproduce and survive. So if you think about things in that way, then I hope that it helps to give you a little bit of grace, where you're like, oh, now I get it. Because I'm telling you, if you are treating your body in the sense where you're not feeding it enough calories, if you're not sleeping enough, if you're stressed out constantly, your body feels like as if it's in danger. Okay. And it goes into this fight or flight kind of mode. And I have to hang on to everything, because if I don't, then I will never survive and I'll never be able to reproduce. So I hope that makes sense to you. So I touch on the hormonal hierarchy here, because a lot of times people, when they think hormones, they always think reproductive hormones. They're always thinking like estrogen and progesterone and testosterone kind of thing. They matter, but it's not all about estrogen and progesterone. It's a lot to do with your insulin and cortisol and leptin. And the biggest movers and shakers in your weight loss journey is going to be the insulin and cortisol levels. So I'm going to break these down a little bit for you. So leptin is the brain's hunger gauge. And that just means that when you're eating, leptin, the leptin hormone is responsible for letting the brain know, like, hey, man, I'm full. It speaks to the brain, the thyroid, as well as the adrenals. And you can be leptin resistant and have no idea. Now, what does it mean to be resistant to somebody? So the analogy that I used earlier this week is, let's say you have a friend that has 10 cats that live in their house. And when you walk in, it's like you get hit with this intense odor of, you know, cat litter box and urine and just that cat dander smell and what have you. Now, the person that lives there, your friend, they think that it's fine. They don't smell it at all. So it's kind of funny. I don't have cats, but I do have a dog. And sometimes I'll ask my mom when she comes over occasionally, I'll be like, Mom, when you walked in, what did it smell like to you? Because, you know, she's not over often. So she, you know, I'm always doing that kind of a check. But anyway, because I do understand that we end up getting resistant to what our own home smells like. So what leptin is it's basically that hormone that, you know, tells our brain, hey, I've had enough, blah, blah, blah. But if there's too much of that hormone floating around in your body, it's not going to see it anymore. It's going to be blinded to it. It's not going to respond to it anymore. And the biggest thing that I want to share with you is that leptin is created in the fat cell. So the more body fat that you have, the more leptin you're going to be producing. So if you are somebody that finds yourself being hungry all the time, there's a couple reasons for being hungry all the time, but the one that I'm going to speak of right now could be directly related to leptin. So if I have somebody, for example, that is inquiring for coaching or something with me, and I ask them, hey, fill out this form, I want to know some information. If they say I'm hungry all the time, then I need to dig a little bit deeper, because I need to kind of, you know, gauge to see how overweight they are and things, because there is a good chance that that hunger is going to decrease as we lower their body fat. Does that make sense? All right. So insulin's job is basically to it's to build. So insulin basically is going to build on fat or build muscle. So it's kind of like there's a double-edged sword with insulin, because, you know, we certainly don't want to build fat. We don't want to build on fat, but we shouldn't be afraid to build muscle. In fact, we really need to be building muscle. So, hey, cardio queens, just a heads up, you want to make sure that you are adding in weights as well. The more muscle tone that you have, the better off that you're going to be. And I always say this too, those bodies that you admire more than likely are women that are doing some kind of weight training. Okay. Insulin's job is also to lower blood sugar, and it's the only hormone that we have that lowers the blood sugar. It also tells the liver to store sugar. So, you know, in some cases too, some people might have like a fatty liver and issues with the liver, and oftentimes they have obvious and, you know, issues with insulin. And it also sends a message to the fat tissue to store it, not to burn it. So again, this also varies from person to person. Some might be more sensitive to insulin than others, right? So this is where that whole comparison game comes in. Like, oh, Sally Sue and I were doing the same thing and she's getting greater results than me. Well, you have to realize that every single body is completely different. Every body has their own hormonal blueprint, and that is up to the individual to figure out what works for their particular body. Okay. Now, key note here I want to mention is how I talked about at the top part about building muscle, is that if you lose muscle over time, then you will lose 15 to 30%. You are 15 to 30% more likely to gain 15 to 20 pounds within 2 years. So if you're somebody that used to be more active in the gym, and to be honest with you, it's interesting because lately I've been reevaluating my relationship with the gym and my relationship with, you know, how much I'm working out compared to how much I used to. And, you know, since having Ayana, my lifestyle has changed tremendously. And so it's like, oh yeah, well, you know, my lifestyle has changed. Okay. Yep. I'm, you know, and so you have to consider these factors instead of like going up, I'm almost 50, fuck it. You know, like I hear my husband talk about that all the time. Oh, I'm getting old. I'm almost 50. That doesn't mean anything. Meaning, like, he'll say, I'm just tired. I'm almost 50. Well, you're buying into it. That's a story that he keeps telling himself. Well, I'm almost 50. I'm, no, no, no. That doesn't mean anything. And that's just the meaning and the story that he's applying to him, and maybe you're doing the same thing. Okay. So cortisol, its job is to raise blood sugar. Okay. And stress, I want you to remember that stress is directly related to cortisol. And I want you to know that it's not just an emotional thing, that stress comes from your adrenal glands. Another way to think of stress is metabolic tension in the body. So if you've ever felt like almost like that pressure cooker kind of feeling, and other forms of stress too, and that people don't recognize, is that if you are sleep deprived, if you are if you go too long without eating, and exercise is also a form of stress on the body, where most people don't realize that sometimes exercise can actually backfire on you. So cortisol and insulin are battling with each other all day long, and there's this kind of seesaw effect that should be going on. So one wants to raise the blood sugar, which is your cortisol, and the other one wants to lower it, which is insulin. So you should be kind of, doing this all day long. However, a lot of times people are, they're living in that cortisol arena way too much, and they're not really recognizing that this is an epidemic, and it's an issue as to why you're not getting where you desire to be. So what your calories consist of matter, and that's what I'm going to move into next. So we're thinking, well, what do you mean? So versus if you were to have a chicken breast, that's 200 calories, and a donut, that's 200 calories, which I'm going to talk about this in a minute, they're going to affect your body hormonally in a very, very different way. So how do you kind of recognize when you are being affected hormonally? So what do you do? So my approach is very much based on an intuitive approach, where I teach you how to listen to your biofeedback. And once you eat foods, to listen to your hunger, energy, and cravings. And that will tell you, because your body is taking lab work within itself all day long. And the things like the HEC, hunger, energy, and cravings, are basically biofeedback markers that let you know, that help you gauge how a food is affecting you. So food is going to, balancing your HEC is going to help you to kind of regulate, because you have to find your tipping point. So it's going to help you to regulate that blood sugar. It's going to help you reduce your hunger and reduce your cravings. And it's all about just getting in tune and listening to your body when you eat a food. So this is the HEC. And then I also put over here 2 other biofeedback markers too, which are your sleep and your mood. So I usually go off the 3, which is your HEC. My mentor taught me about SHMEC, which means that you're adding in the sleep, hunger, energy, cravings, and mood. Okay. But that's a simple way to kind of read your metabolism too. So you always want to be aware of these things. So like for my clients, I always tell them, set an alarm for every 3 hours and check in with yourself and ask yourself, how is my hunger? How's my energy? And how's my cravings? Now, if you find that one is out of check, like let's say you're like, okay, I am not hungry. I'm not hungry. I have good energy right now, and I don't have any cravings. Then your HEC is in check. Everything is great. But let's say you're sitting there and you're like, you know what? I'm hungry. My energy is starting to dip, and my cravings, they're fine. So then obviously your HEC is out of check. And just remember that if one's out of check, they're all out of check. Okay. So an unbalanced body equals chronic inflammation also. So this is another thing that you need to consider. And a lot of people aren't even thinking about inflammation. Like they don't even think of it. People are just so narrow-minded in the sense, and not saying that in a negative way, but they're just only focusing on calories in, calories out, which, mind you, yes, calories do matter. You do have to have a calorie deficit in order to lose weight. But if you're eating foods that are causing chronic inflammation, that means that your body is, in like this frantic mode, and you're puffy and bloated and you look like the Michelin man. Inflammation is definitely something that is a big, big issue for a lot of people. Chronic inflammation people are walking around with, I can spot it in a second. Like, oh yeah, that person, I can see it in their face. I can just see it. Like in myself, if I have inflammation in my face, it takes on a whole different appearance. When we reduce inflammation in somebody's body, they are not achy. They can move easier. They look and feel better. It's just incredible. But you have to really understand too, that inflammation, there is a time and place and a purpose for it. You know, inflammation, if you were to, let's say, you know, sprain your ankle or, you know, get a blister and there's kind of that red, you know, and it swells up, that's inflammation going in and trying to clean up some of the mess that's going on there. But if we're walking around with this all day long, it's going to wreak havoc on your body and you are not going to feel good. Trust me. And not to go down a crazy rabbit hole, but from what I understand, and I could be wrong, but from what I understand, that there are some autoimmune issues. And I'll probably, maybe my next live might be, or my next series might be on autoimmune, because that's really a problem. But if chronic inflammation goes undetected or you know, if you're not taking care of it, then it can definitely create some autoimmune issues. So just want to just lay that out there for you. Okay, so this kind of a food, obviously, these are inflammation causing foods. You know, your processed foods, your like your breads and dairies and, you know, things like that, you know, have these, but have them in smaller amounts and less often. So the inflammation causing foods are, you know, they have higher amounts of sugar and high fructose corn syrup. They're refined carbs, breads, crackers, pretzels, alcohol, processed meats such as salami, bacon, and canned meats, frozen meals. You know, oftentimes people are like, oh, you know, this frozen meal that I got at Costco was just so great. And I'm like, well, turn it over, man. Like every once in a while, but we don't want to, you know, eat that on a consistent basis. And that's part of the problem, is that, you know, people are always looking for this convenience and this, and it's honestly, it's not that hard to cook good foods for yourself. Obviously fast foods, and then sugar sweetened beverages like sodas, sweet teas, and energy drinks. So that chicken breast and donut example right here. So 255 calories, for example, here. So you're going to be affected much, much differently by the chicken breast than you are the donut. So I also mentioned too the other day about, you know, when your eyes see a food, it does also trigger brain receptors, your taste receptors and things like that in the brain, meaning that it's like your condition. So if you see a specific food, you might find that your mouth is watering. It's kind of like that Pavlov experiment with the dogs, right? And so your body will be affected hormonally sometimes before you even put it in your mouth. And so I want you to kind of recognize that. So if you smell something, or if you actually see something, that's so fascinating to me, how your brain is, how your body, you know, your brain receives it, translates it, and your body's preparing for it. So just want to make that clear. And then also, you know, the donut here is an obvious inflammation causing food. Okay. So you will get to the point when you start to do this investigative work, especially if you work with me, you will start to recognize like, oh, Jesus, I didn't realize when I eat that, oh my God, I wake up and I'm so stiff and achy and I just feel terrible. So oftentimes people think, oh, I have some healthy snacks. And I just want to share that some of these are really not as great as you think. And I'm not saying that you need to completely avoid these things. And I'm just saying, just have awareness, because these companies know what they're doing. They are marketing to people that they feel are not completely aware. So oftentimes, you know, we have to start somewhere, right? So I always say, like, I could never take somebody from, you know, from eating fast food to eating tofu overnight. That would just be disastrous. But, you know, let's say somebody is eating McDonald's every day and then they switch over to eating something like this. Well, then that's totally fine, right? So we all have our journey. We all have our level of education in the sense where we are seeking the information for ourselves, right? So you might be somebody that's like, gosh, you know what, just 2 years ago, I just started on this journey where I was just, you know, looking, you know, I heard something about this specific ingredient and, you know, so on and so forth. Just kind of like my husband and I, we were playing a game with some friends of ours, and it talked about, was it Splenda? That Splenda is actually found in, was it rat poisoning? I can't remember what it was, but I told my husband, like, take a picture because I'm going to make a post about that. So, you know, that might be something that triggers you to be like, well, Jesus, like, what else is there? So that's all I'm getting at, is that, you know, sure, have the things you enjoy, but just make sure that they are things that buffer you instead of trigger you. So if I had the veggie straws, I couldn't have just a handful. Veggie straws to me taste like McDonald's French fries. So I would probably eat the whole damn bag. So that's not going to buffer anything for me. That's basically me being triggered, and then I'm going to want more and more of it, because you're going to crave what you eat and your body just is going to want more and more. So it's kind of like around the holidays when you eat, you know, the gravy and the stuffing and, you know, the pie and all of that, and you wonder why you just continue to want more and more of it. It's because your body craves what you eat. So just be mindful. Another not so healthy snack, you know, things, you got to be very careful when it comes to these protein bars and, you know, granolas and, you know, all that kind of stuff. Number one, it's in a package, and number two, it's has, you know, a lot more ability to affect you hormonally. And so again, you need to have some awareness with this. So I'm going to be teaching you a magic formula that I basically call it. So stay tuned for that, so that when it comes to these kinds of things, then it'll help you to find that tipping point. So like I said, we're saying a tipping point. What do you mean tipping point? Tipping point just means is that we all have our own personal tipping point when it comes to carbohydrates and proteins and fats. Meaning, like, let's say I could personally handle, my phone is ringing. It's probably my Instacart shopper. Let's say I could personally handle 30 grams of carbohydrates, simple carbohydrates in a serving. Let's just say. But it would make you feel tired and you know what I mean? But we have to figure that out for ourselves. I'm not necessarily somebody that, you know, has my clients focus on numbers per se, but, you know, we kind of get a good gauge and idea of it. All right. So just want to share too that your body, your psychology sees things one way, and your physiology sees things another way. And so what that means is that your mind and your head is always going to be saying something like, ooh, you know, I want that, or, you know, whatever the case may be. But your body is going to be like, yeah, you know, when you do have it, it's not going to sit very well with you. So just pay attention to the fact that this is going to be saying one thing, this is always going to be saying another, and it's very difficult to get those two in alignment. Okay. So the next thing that I want to talk about is my patterns of power method. And my patterns of power method is something that is extremely eye-opening for so many people, because they don't recognize that they fall into this. Now, this was something that I had developed through something that I had learned through the 12-week year, which was called the emotional cycle of change. And maybe you've seen it, maybe you haven't. But as I started to regurgitate that, my mentor had said, Kelly, you really need to create this in your own words, you know, because that's really what we all do. A lot of us aren't reinventing the wheel. We are just modeling after things and then taking it on our own, and then able to develop it in the sense that applies to us, and way that we're able to teach it and help other people understand. So the patterns of power method, on the left-hand side, you'll see where it says phase 1, and that's a dopamine hit. And you're truly just only outcome focused at that time. So if you're somebody that's like, oh, I'm going to start something new, this is so exciting, most of the time you're just thinking about what you want to happen at the end, but you don't have the realization as to the work and the awareness of consequences. That's where phase 2 comes in, where you start to get the thoughts and thinking of, is this really worth it? I feel, oh my God, like I'm just restricted. I just can't do this. And you start to listen to your own bullshit and lies, which we're going to talk about that later. But you start to really listen to the shit in your head. And this person will not stop. Hold on one second. Hello? Yes. Yes. Okay, it's 15014 Rivendell Drive, Rivendell Drive, and that's Sterling Heights, 48313. 15014 Rivendell, Rivendell Drive. Yeah, and please just leave it on the porch. I'm actually in a presentation right now. And I saw you were kept calling. I'm like, I better answer that. So, all right, just leave it there. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. Have a good day. Bye. Whoa. Well, I'm glad I answered that because he said, I don't have your address. And I'm like, how is that possible? Okay. So you start to listen to your own shit, right? So you're like, is this really worth it? And that's when you go back to phase one. So here's an example. So phase 1 to 2, phase 1, I'm so excited. I'm starting this new program, diet, whatever it might be, 30-day challenge or whatever. You get excited. Then a couple of days later, you start to feel like, I don't know if I want to do this anymore because it's too hard. I don't know. Am I really that bad off where I am? I want to, you start to think of social situations and different things that are up and coming. I might as well wait till after Sally's party, summer, boating season, because it's going to be too hard. I don't want to stress out about it. So then, you then go back to, you stop and then you go back to phase 1 again because you decide, you know what, I'm going to do this again. I'm going to try this again. So for me, it was Monday through Thursday. I was perfect with my diet and exercise. And then, Thursday night would come, it was happy hour. And then I, go off the rails or hop off the wagon for the entire weekend because it was just too hard for me. I chose the partying and eating like shit. And then I would get excited because Monday was going to be a whole new start for me. And so that hence is that dopamine hit. So that in itself is kind of an addiction. And I did that for years. But then I realized that when I heard that emotional cycle of change thing, I'm like, what the fuck? That is me. I lived half of my life doing this whole stupid cycle. If I only heard this so many years ago, but then again, maybe if I did hear it, I may not have been ready to hear it. I maybe would not have been in that place of having that behavioral flexibility. But really, my friend, what I'm here to tell you is that you really have to get past that line. You got to get through that uncomfortableness and you have to get into that uncomfortable hallway. Making the desired change that you want doesn't happen overnight. It doesn't happen instantly. Sustainable change takes time. You want to know why? Because we are battling with the new identity and the old identity. So this is why we have this struggle. We have this internal battle all the time because you have two identities. You've got this one that you desire to be and this one that you already are. And this one that you already are, it's just easier to lean into those habits and patterns. And so just giving you this awareness, I do hope that you're like, oh my God, now it makes total sense, right? So if you're wanting to lose the 10 pounds, 20 pounds, 30, 40, 50, 100 pounds, whatever it is, you're going to be repeating, kind of like, you're going to be repeating this cycle in the sense where you'll be like going through several uncomfortable hallways. And then you get over to that success side. And I call it the success and fulfillment side because that's when you realize like, oh, I got through this hallway. Holy shit, I did it. I feel like I can do anything now. So for me, an example was when I was really struggling with my drinking, I just could never believe in myself. I just was like, I just could never trust myself to actually, quit or change the relationship with it. And so I went to a conference. It was a 5-day thing. And I was just like, I'm not drinking. I told myself I'm just not going to drink. And it was hard, but I did it. And I just bawled my eyes out when I got home from that because I hugged my girlfriend and I just remember saying, oh my God, I did it because I didn't think I could do it. I just didn't believe in myself. But when I finally felt that feeling and I felt that empowered state, that's when I realized you can do anything. If you got through that, you can do anything. That 5 days felt like 5 years to me.
My apologies.
I don't know why my watch does that sometimes. So I want you to understand that, yes, change can be difficult, but man, it's so fucking worth it. But you just have to stick to it. And we're going to talk about who you're surrounding yourself by. We're going to talk about your thoughts and thinking, where those came from, and so that you can have this awareness. Having this awareness is going to help you to say, okay, that's just my That's just my current or former identity who I don't want to be anymore. This is too painful. So I want you to recognize that if you want to make change, but you find yourself stopping, it's because where you're at is not painful enough. Your pain is not great enough yet, but it will be. And when your pain is to that point where I can't do this anymore, like has been for me in many areas, that's when you will make the change. That's when you're going to surrender. And that's when you're going to stop listening to your fucking lies and bullshit. And I am so intense about this because it's true. And I'm telling you this with love and intensity because I want this for you. I want this for you. And I want you to want it just as bad. Okay. So your environment and your physiology. So this is what I call the NLP model. And you're going to see this quite a bit throughout this presentation. And this, what I call the NLP head is basically, we're going to just touch on this briefly, is we all have this internal representation that gets created. So we have everything that goes on in our life, we create this visual. So a great example would be the Shakira and J-Lo Super Bowl show. So we had two very different polarized audiences. One group was like, man, that was so empowering and I want to be like them. And then there was other people that were like, that was just disgusting and da, 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 da. And hey, nobody was right or wrong. That's the problem, is that, you know, people have this belief that people have to see their view. But listen, we just have to respect where each other are at. We just have to respect each other's view of the world. But the reason I'm bringing this up is because when it comes to everyday life for you, you are always, always, always creating internal representations of what's going on. So there's this external event, which goes through all of your senses, which is your visual, your auditory, your smell, your taste, your feel, touch, whatever. You then will take the information, you delete, distort, and you generalize, and then you run it through your own personal values, beliefs, decisions, and past memories. You then create this interpretation, which then creates a state of mind and a physiology, and then creates the output. So let's say, for example, the women that found it extremely empowering, they ran it through their values, beliefs, decisions, all that stuff. And then they decided, man, that just gave me the kick in the pants that I really needed. And I'm going to start just fucking killing it in the gym. That was the output and behavior. So it created a empowering state of mind within them, which created this go get shit done. I'm going to do this. Then maybe the other group, maybe it triggered them in the sense of, I don't like that. I am nowhere near that. I could never be that. I'm just going to go emotional eat and go stand in front of the pantry and eat Cheetos. You see, because maybe that state of mind that was created from their personal interpretation created that state of mind of, I'm not worthy. I suck. I could never look like that. So then it created that behavior. So I just want you to recognize that this happens to you every day, all day long. So recognize the story that you are telling yourself all day, every day. What was it that just happened? What was the story I'm just telling myself? Okay. So this is kind of like your typical female, we have all these things going on. We're wearing the busy badge. We find that honorable, which it's not. Delegating is where it's at, hiring things out is where it's at. And I say that with not hesitancy, but I say that in the sense that it took me a long time to realize that I can't do everything. And I don't want to do everything now because I know it doesn't serve me well. It doesn't, wearing that badge is not something that is going to get me to where I desire to be in my life. And so a lot of us women, we tend to fall into this model of like doing it all, doing everything. We exercise more, we eat less, we do, go, which ends up creating a situation where we're hungry all the time. We have no energy. We're craving like crazy. We end up, gaining weight over time, and our metabolism decreases, and it just overall creates this metabolic dysfunction because your cortisol is going up, your cravings going up, the stress goes up, the cravings go up. It's just this vicious cycle because we have this story and belief that if we sit back and relax, or if we delegate, then we're doing something wrong and we're bad and we're lazy. and why that story has developed and why it's such a strong thing within this female, or within us females, I'm not really sure. But we have to sit back and think, how is this affecting me hormonally? So wearing the busy badge and being this lady is not going to get you where you desire to be. So just remember that your metabolism is a stress barometer. And I want you to think that your body is always doing lab work on itself. And remember, the hormones are always communicating too. So you have to also know too that your metabolism, it doesn't care about your vanity concerns. It doesn't. It's just all about how the physiology is seeing what's going on in your world. So it goes back to what? The surviving and reproducing. So brain impact is a very real thing, and that's the hypothalamus center of the metabolism. And the hypothalamus is something that is in your brain, and it's like your antenna in your brain, and it's like the Wi-Fi system. And you know how, like, if we are like at the hair salon or at a nail salon, and we're like, Jesus, God, this Wi-Fi is just not up to par. Well, maybe it's because it's overloaded into when people are trying to hop on. Well, that's kind of the same thing with our brain too, is that, when we take on all these things, in addition to the mental shit that we have going on in the background of our mind that we are not recognizing or really hearing or paying attention to, then we are, totally impacting our brain in a very negative way. Okay. So that's basically the governor is what I call it. It's the control center of your body. It tells your body, what to do. So it's like the command and control center in the brain of the body. So it tells the thyroid what to do, the adrenals what to do, your gut and digestive tract what to do, your ovaries, testicles, And so it's super, super important to have this understanding. And, like I had said, and maybe it was in a podcast, but, I recently talked about the fact that there's so many models out there, meaning diet models or nutrition models, that don't talk about any of this stuff. And that's why, having knowledge of this information, that's why my style of teaching and coaching and the information that I provide is so much different than a lot of what is out there, because sometimes they don't want you to know about this. And they want you to think that it's just as easy as, calories in and calories out, but it's way more than that. So I just want to show you, some results from some of my clients. And this is actually Kimmy. Actually, she is one of my co-coaches, actually my only co-coach right now. And I say that because I'm, looking to really, really expand my team this year. And I'm super stoked and excited so that we can make a greater impact and help more people. But you'll see Kimmy, she's lost, I believe at this point in time, around 85 pounds. And it's just living the lifestyle and paying attention to how she's impacted hormonally. And I know it's also helped her skin clear up too. This is Alicia, and this difference is just within 3 weeks. Like, look at the impact that it's had on her backside and her waist, which is, crazy. And this is Cal. Actually, Kelly just made a post in our community yesterday. I was like, oh my God, I love this so much. And, she was just basically saying that, she is just so grateful for the tools that she's learned and things like that. So you'll see, even on the left side, like I always say this, and it's just so heartbreaking for me to see sometimes, is that, when I have clients begin their journey with me, and when they send me their pictures, the initial expression is always that of just such great sadness. And then as the weeks go by, then I start to see these big, huge smiles and stuff. So you can really see how, how they're just feeling better, and maybe it's not even so much this great transformation in this short amount of time, but even just in a few weeks, it's just pretty crazy to me. All right. So now we're going to move into day 2. I'm going to take a swig of water here. And if you are commenting in the comments, for whatever reason, I'm not really able to see them, and that's totally fine, because that could take us down a crazy rabbit hole. And so I'll definitely get back to those questions once I sign off. A little bit of coffee. So day 2, we're going to talk about hormones and nutrition. And we're going to dive deep into the nutrition that encourages a leaner physique, more energy, and curb cravings. And there's a lot of really cool tools that I teach you in day 2. Hormones, again, in your physiology. Once again, just reminding you about the difference that the surroundings of where the hormone, like the environment that the hormones are being presented with. So they're going to act and respond very differently. Once again, talking about the internal representations that you are creating in your mind every single day according to your own personal values, beliefs, decisions, and memories, and how that creates different states of mind. Your state of mind is extremely important. Your success is state of mind dependent. Okay. So talking about the autonomic nervous system, which earlier I talked about the seesaw, which is your parasympathetic and your sympathetic, and those two just kind of go, they're supposed to go like this throughout the day. But most of the world is always living in that fight or flight mode all day long. And you've probably heard that. Maybe you haven't. But we need to embrace more of that parasympathetic mode, which is more in alignment with rebooting that metabolism. Most of us think that, if we're not go, do, that we're doing something wrong. And so what type of states of emotions, with what I shared about how your state of mind, that ends up creating that physiology and ultimately making these choices, what kind of states of emotions do you think that each side encourages? And so option one side, which is your parasympathetic, that is obviously going to create more happiness and hope and sense of ease and confidence and being in control and prideful. It's more of your rest and digest. And that's also falls more in alignment with your feminine energy. We all, whether we're male or female, have feminine and masculine energy. Feminine energy is more so like laid back and peaceful and, just let's go window shopping and that kind of thing. And then as far as your other side, the sympathetic, you're going to be more iron fist, more masculine, and that's exhausting. I had shared through this series how I lived a lot of my life in that masculine mode, and it's not, you don't realize it a lot of times, and you take on this energy, and because you have these beliefs and these stories that you tell yourself, if I don't do more, then I'm not doing, well, or whatever. But it really brings on a lot of stress and anxiety, fear, guilt, frustration, obsession, and jealousy. And why I say obsession and jealousy is because, sometimes people get really obsessed with, this thing that they're focusing on, and then it ends up backfiring. And then jealousy comes in a lot of times because, they might be jealous of somebody else's results, or, just jealous of somebody that is always putting their mind to it, do what they say what they mean, kind of an individual, which is what I would love for you to be like if you're not already, because it makes a difference in your life in so many areas. And so which one do you think that you fall in? Are you somebody currently that is living under the circumstances of like option 1 or 2? Are you somebody that's always on a diet and, feeling bad if you have a cookie, or, if you're on that emotional or the patterns of power, are you, sliding always in between phases 1 and 2? And are you always on and off the wagon? Or are you somebody that, is mindful of your choices, but yet at peace with your indulgences, and you're okay? There's no guilt or shame attached to it. That is a really, really important thing for you to understand and recognize, how one impacts your body, versus the other. So your relationship with food. So this is big. So, here's a belief, and this has to do with perfectionism. And so oftentimes people will have this belief in their mind that I have to be perfect. Therefore, I am good if I'm perfect, according to my set of rules and my belief system. If I fall off track, then I'm bad, and then I must start over. And so this is where that whole start over syndrome comes in. I did this forever, always wanting to start over. I got to start over because I ate a cookie, and it's total lie. It's just a lie. And it's a lie that turned into this belief that governs your decisions and your actions and ultimately your behavior. So if we lived by that logic, then that would just mean that there was one way of eating all the time, forever and ever and ever and ever for the rest of your life. Amen. Because according to that specific belief, that's it. That just means that you have to be good and perfect, which is so crazy, isn't it? That just means like, oh, I'm just going to eat like this. And there's never any indulgences ever and ever. Because if I do that, then I'm bad. And that is not true. Okay. So your nutritional foundation really needs to, I don't really like to throw out the words needs and shoulds. That's kind of a habit because it's me implying that this specific approach is going to be the best for you. But I'm just sharing information that I know works, right? And so there's the intuitive approach. This is the one that I really focus on the most, especially in the beginning with my clients, because they need to understand how food is affecting them. And then sometimes we might move into a more caloric specific kind of approach. I am also a macro coach and macronutrition coach, meaning that I can help people with breaking down the specifics with the numbers and all of that stuff. So anyway, so the intuitive approach is more listening to that biofeedback that is your schmeck, right? That I talked about earlier. And I also want to talk about the food groups that are going to speak to your body the best hormonally. And that would be your lean proteins and meats, okay? Non-starchy vegetables, non-starchy fruits. And you can just Google that, like non-starchy vegetables list, or list of non-starchy vegetables, or list of non-starchy fruits. Plain potatoes. I like white, sweet potatoes. White, sweet potatoes. So there's white and sweet potatoes. Sometimes people can handle a Yukon because a Yukon has a little bit more fiber in it than just like your white russet, I think it's called. But if you have things like potatoes and plain rice, you want to be mindful and really pay attention to learning what your tipping point is. Because I am certain that you have been in a position before where you're just like, oh my God, oh, I'm so tired. I just ate such and such. I'm so tired. So you want to be in a place where you're learning how many or how much of carbs, for example, that you can have before you get to that point. Now, I'm going to teach you something here shortly about how it can help you, but I would recommend maybe having around 7 to 10 bites of your starchier kind of foods. Okay, starchier like potatoes and rice. And don't put any kind of butters or sour cream or anything on there. You don't want to combine the fats and the starches together. We'll just leave it at that. Vinegars and spices, right? So vinegar is really great. It's awesome. It helps you with your digestion and such. Sometimes people will message me, what do you think about drinking a shot of vinegar? Listen, that is very individual. If you want to do it, sure. I used to drink vinegar with honey and lemon and stevia and a little bit of cayenne pepper every morning. But then I realized like, you know what? I kind of grew out of it, you know? So, but who knows, I might bring it back in again. That just kind of depends. You know, I just kind of go back and forth with some things. And then also make sure that you have a favorite food that you are eating at least once a week, just once a week, not at least a favorite food once a week so that you don't feel like you are deprived, because then it's going to feel like, oh my God, I don't want you having that attitude of I can't have this kind of food. Yes, you can. You just have to recognize that it's good to have it every now and then. Now, for some people, once a week it becomes too much for them because they don't like the way that it feels. So for example, if I said, well, I'm going to have Cheetos once a week, I know that if I have that once a week, that's just too much. It's painful for me, physically painful. And it doesn't feel good. So I don't want it. And so it's not that I don't want it. I can't say that because I would like to have Cheetos, but I choose not to because of the way it makes me feel. If that makes sense. So some people will say, well, pizza's my favorite food and great, whatever. Hey, if you find that having it once a week is great and it keeps you from wanting to binge and go all crazy, awesome. But if you find that it tends to trigger you like Cheetos do for me, so Cheetos are like a trigger and also they make me feel like shit. So, you know, you have to kind of figure out, like, you have to make that decision. Like, you know, yes, this is great. I enjoy having it my once a week and that's it. Kind of like my former business coach, Jason, you know, he talks about how he has to have, and he's actually a macro coach too. So, you know, he has a great physique and such. And he talks about like, he will never not have his pizza on Friday. And awesome. He's found that balance. He knows that if he doesn't have his pizza, that it'll piss him off, you know? And so next we're going to talk about foods that have a label. So we're going to talk about that magic formula here, because this is going to be a great tool that's going to help you out a lot. So I hope that this makes sense to you. So really, when it comes to, you know, eating the foods that are going to really feel the best hormonally, that's really leaning into things like your salads and stir fries and scrambles. And I put shakes here, and I mean that with a light heart, because I don't believe in quick fixes with shakes and things like that. When I say shakes to me, and what I express to my clients is, you know, shakes should be used as a buffer food. And that just means it's kind of something that will tie you over, or something that will keep you from overeating, you know, that kind of stuff. What, honey? Well, honey, I can't do it right now. You're going to have to do it yourself. So when it comes to, you know, things like shakes, just be mindful that I'm not saying, hey, go on this, you know, 3 days, 3 shakes a day kind of thing and not maintain it. No, shakes is definitely something that is like a supplementation to kind of help you. Or another example for a shake would be, let's say your drive home is long and you get really hungry between leaving work or wherever it is, and having the shake in the car, or that you make it, you know, you drink it on the way home, will stop you from driving into McDonald's. Okay. So BAS, that stands for Big Ass Salad. That is something that I had taken from another leader in the industry, and I love the Big Ass Salad. Basically, you know, she has these, not rules, but these expectations of herself every day. And I was like, oh, you know, she was in, I didn't meet her, but she was in this mastermind that I had taken, and she had shared that she tells herself that, hey, I have to have 1 BAS a day. And I was like, that's fucking brilliant. I'm going to apply that. And so I shared that with everybody. It's not something that I own, because I totally give her full credit on that. But having a big ass salad a day has really been a game changer, especially even could help with your digestion too. So stir fries are great. Have fun with it. I had shared that I've been doing a lot of stir fries with my family. Just having fun with different kind of, not sauces so much, but seasonings, because sauces can make it dangerous, because stir fries can easily turn into a danger zone like a salad. You got to be careful when it comes to salad, you know, steer clear from the cheeses and croutons and creamy dressings. Like when I went back to that list, I talked about the vinegars, you know, make sure that your salads are more so dressed with a vinegar based kind of a dressing. Scrambles, you know, that most of the time is going to be more egg based. For some people, including myself, eggs don't feel that great to me. They tend to cause a lot of inflammation. They're very high in sulfur too. So if you're someone that has sulfur issues, maybe you don't realize you have sulfur issues. But eggs can be, you know, but for most people, they can handle them pretty well. I do kind of miss my eggs, but I don't miss the way that they feel. So scrambles are great and easy. And, you know, I had shared too that getting even egg whites, like you can get those containers of egg whites. I used to get a ton of those containers from Costco, and they're tasteless. So I could make, you know, the egg whites as the base and pretty much throw whatever I wanted in it. And then your shakes, of course, that I already told you my opinion on the shakes. So just be careful, because this is not what I teach is not a diet. What I teach is hormonal balance. And I teach you to become your own detective on how specific foods speak to you and how foods make you feel. And you have the choice. So you have to do that work to figure out what feels good and what doesn't. Okay. So again, your favorite food, 1 time a week, if you so choose. And that could be burger and fries, could be pizza, it could be ice cream. I don't know. It could be donuts. And then what I wanted to talk about with that magical formula. So I brought something down last time, but we'll just, I do have a example label. So the magic formula that I'm going to speak of is if something comes in a package, because most of your food should come from the ground, swim around, or walk around. You don't want a bunch of your food coming from a package. So I'm going to say that again. The foods that you should be consuming walk around, come from the ground, or swim around. The stuff that comes in a package really should be limited, and this magical formula should kind of help you gauge a little bit with how much of the serving to have. And this is just a guide to help you figure out your tipping point. So if you were looking at a label, and I'm going to give you a visual here in a second, you would take the total carbs minus the fiber, minus the protein, and any sugar alcohol, not sugars, but sugar alcohol. And the number that you come up with should be less than or equal to 10 per serving. 10 is great, negatives are best. So you're thinking, what? My head is spinning. It's okay. Let me just share with you. So according to this specific label, per half cup, you take total carbs, which is 3, minus the fiber, which is 3. There's no sugar alcohol, but there is protein. So 3 minus 3 minus 3 is what? It's a negative. So this is great. Totally fine. You should not be affected hormonally. Now, let's say this particular item was 33 carbohydrates. So we have 2 choices here. So we take the 33 minus the 3 fiber, so that takes us down to 30, minus the 3 grams of protein, that takes us down to what, 27. Now I said 10 is what you really want to be at. So what would you do? What are the 2 different choices here? Go ahead and put that in the comments. I might not see it, but what are the 2 choices? So one choice is you just don't eat it. Or the other choice is you break it in thirds, because 1/3 of that particular serving would be 10, would take you down to that number 10. So I don't know what 1/3 of a half cup is. I'm not great with math. If my husband was here, he'd be able to go like that, because he's a die maker and he deals with math all day long. So when it comes to the serving, then you might be like, okay, that's not going to work. Forget it. Right? So I remember very, very clearly one of my former clients, Azalee, she had messaged me and said, hey, like, I want to eat this trail mix, but after I do the label rule, I'm coming up with, I don't know, like, I think it's a teaspoon that I can have of it. And I said, okay, let me double check. And so we were kind of laughing about it, going, yeah, like, you really can't have a whole lot of that. So it's like, is it worth it? Right? So this will help you tremendously. And again, it's just a formula and a tool that'll help you kind of figure out your own personal tipping point. Now, if you're a numbers person, a simple caloric intake formula for you. This is for numbers that would be geared toward a weight loss. And if you're a client of mine, we don't deal with numbers unless you're on a macro program with me specifically. So don't even pay attention to this. But because like I said, my clients are really on an intuitive feeling kind of thing. Some of them move into the numbers, but I don't like people getting caught up into the numbers, because to me, it creates stress. But again, everybody's different, but I'm sharing this because there are some people that really need numbers, and that's totally fine. Like, their brain just ticks with numbers. So you would take your current body weight and times it by 10. So somebody that's 180 times it by 10, that's 1,800. And then you would break that up by 30% protein, 40% carbs, and 30% fat. So it's a 30-40-30 ratio. So you would just do the math on that. Okay, cool. All right, so that is the end of day 2. Holy moly, we are rocking this out. I'm so excited that I was able to I just spilled a bunch of water. That I was able to get through days 1 and 2 in an hour. That is incredible. Okay, so let's move on to day 3. All right, so I call this one, It's Not Your Fault. And I got a few messages on this saying, oh my gosh, like, thank you so much for sharing this, because people, again, they just didn't have the understanding or awareness, really the awareness of what was going on in their head. Okay, so we're going to dive deep into the vicious self-destructive patterns and why you have these, where they're coming from, and what you can do about it. So, public service announcement, your brain is going to collect evidence. And you're thinking, what do you mean collect evidence? Well, we have something in our brain that's called the RAS, which is the reticular activating system that's located in your brain, and it filters down to 2.3 bits per second that we are being given via our five senses down to 126. So I want you to kind of visualize this. When I say 2.3 billion, I want you to think in toothpicks. Think of that, 2.3 billion, right? So it's kind of like our brain is constantly pulling in 2.3 billion toothpicks, but because of remember the NLP head, we delete, we start generalize, we put it through that whole filter, we only end up with 126 toothpicks out of all of that data and information that your brain is pulling in. So just know that you're constantly recording everything that is going on. So that's why I always tell people, like, you have to be super careful with what you're listening to, who you're surrounding yourself by, the places you're going, because the information is being sucked in like a sponge in your brain. So I hope I tell this story correctly, but there was a study that was done, and of course it had to do everything with the subconscious mind, and it had to do with what the person actually heard and what they thought that they heard. And so they took these studies, basically these two people, and they then had them sit in a restaurant which was located by these tables. And then what they did was they ended up having conversation with the individuals separately that they were testing, the two test suspects, I guess you would call them, or test subjects, not suspects, the two test subjects, asking them a question about what they heard or what their conversation was. And according to their own view, and because they filtered everything through, right, they gave very different stories. Well, then they were able to hypnotize these subjects, and then they were able to actually kind of tap into what the subconscious mind actually heard. They were able to say word for word as to what these other subjects that were surrounding them in that restaurant that they weren't having a conversation with. It was just their subconscious mind had pulled that in. Now, to some people, they might be like, yeah, right, whatever. Well, hey, believe what you want. But I know how powerful the subconscious mind is, especially being an NLP coach. It's like, whoa, like I've learned so many things, and it's really helped myself and my clients having this understanding and how powerful that subconscious mind is. So the filters include, again, your beliefs, your values, identity, all that stuff, right? So here's that NLP head again, right? So the excuse that we talk about. So the excuse is, you know, I can't lose weight because, and then insert whatever excuses that you're believing at the moment, right? And, you know, it could be, I can't lose weight because, da, da, da. Or, you know, I can't lose weight just because, I don't know, you know, whatever your excuse is. So there's always going to be some kind of excuse. So it's a belief which is holding you back. So just recognize that this belief that you have is a total excuse. Now, the other thing that I want to bring up is generational stories. I can't lose weight because that's just the cards that I was dealt. It's not true. I've got my mom's thighs. Okay, if that's what you want to believe. You might be shaped like her, but doesn't mean that you have to, like, you're like, that's it. That's it. No, that's not true. We all have these predispositions. God, I have a hard time saying that. Predispositions. But it's our choice whether or not we choose to live that same lifestyle, way, accept of whatever it is. And the way I explained this the other day was think of your DNA like just think of like your arm with a sleeve, right? So like right now I'm exposed. So let's just say on a cellular level, I continue to live a lifestyle that exposes my predispositions to like threats because of the way that I operate in my life. So let's just say, you know, I do have the disposition of cancer with my mother, right? So I'm a higher risk. And so if I lived a life that was, you know, lack of sleep, high stress, high inflammation foods, and just a mindset full of garbage, you know, I'm basically exposing, but I personally choose to live a life that is going to, in essence, cover that up. So it's kind of like putting a sleeve on top of that, right? So I know that I have this and I have a choice as to whether to live my life like, hey, or to, you know what, I'm going to choose to put a sleeve on. So it's kind of like, how many times have, you know, you've been told by your mom, hey, if you're going in the woods back there, make sure you cover up because there's poison ivy. You know, you wouldn't walk back there with, you know, bare arms and legs. You cover up. Same kind of thing. So what I want to share with you is that a lot of these truths that you have are just beliefs. So what you think is your fact and your truth, it's just a belief that you've taken on. Okay. So all that said, I just want to bring to your attention that when we choose to believe these things, it's also something that we're holding ourselves back from. We're procrastinating, or we're just completely avoiding. And that could be even something like, you know, a career change or whatever. But it gives you that burning belly. Like there was so long when I felt like I'm just in the wrong place. I'm not in the right job. I'm just not in the right area. And it was awful feeling. I had this burning belly. It was like I knew I was meant for something greater. And that is what I'm doing right now. I knew that there was something that was supposed to be more in alignment, because what I was doing before, I was an administrative assistant. I worked at Ford Motor Company. You know, then I worked at another place and another place. And it was just like, I was never happy. Like I never felt fulfilled. So I was out of control. I was out of control with my eating. I was a binger. I was a binge drinker and eater. And I purged and all of that stuff. It was just self-destruct, constant. So perfectionism and procrastination keeps you playing small, and it keeps you from achieving your dreams. Not sharing your gifts is the most selfish thing that you can do. And what I mean by that is that we all have something that we can teach somebody else. And, you know, like my mentor always says, you know, like we're here, we have 4 jobs, which is to love, to teach, to learn, and to make money. And I always say that you have to be in a position where you're always learning from somebody that's ahead of you in the game, and you're always teaching from somebody that's kind of behind you in your journey, and they're following yours or similar to, you know. And so oftentimes people will stay in these stuck places because it's easy, even though they don't like the way that it feels, but they stay in this stuck place because they are afraid. And fear is a liar. If you haven't figured that out, oftentimes, how many times have you been in a position you're like, oh, that wasn't so bad? Like going on the roller coaster. How many times have you been in that position? I don't want to go on that. I am just too scared. That's fear. Then you go on it. It's like, woo, that's so fun. Let's get back in line. You know, and so how often are you doing this in life, right? So what is perfectionism and your limiting beliefs holding you back from besides your weight loss goals? Because I am telling you, everybody thinks, and maybe you think this, well, if I just lose the weight, then I will. Well, that's ass backwards. No, because I'm telling you, weight loss is a byproduct of other things. Yes, I'm giving you the tools and helping to understand about hormones and biofeedback and calories and all of this stuff. But honestly, that's just one part of the many. And if you want accelerated weight loss, you have to focus on many, many things. And not to overwhelm you, but I'm just bringing something to your attention. And what are those things? You have to focus on your mind. Sometimes you have to release and forgive and rewire, and you have to, you know, focus on your lifestyle habits. And, you know, so just kind of keep that in mind. So the lies that you tell yourself, I'll begin when, or I'm doing everything, I just don't do everything, you know, which oftentimes You might be doing what you think is everything, but maybe it's not the right thing for you right now. Or I will begin when, that said, oh, that kind of goes in with the excuse one, right? I'll begin when it's the right time. It's not the right time. And then a whole fucking year goes by, and then you're watching my series again. You know what I mean? And so I see that happen all the time. Like, well, which is fine. I'm not here to judge. I'm just here to make this awareness and to help you like stop that vicious cycle, because that's exactly what this is. I need to check my battery percentage here. Okay, we're good. All right. So you might be saying, okay, well, where do I start? Like, what do I do? You start to focus on things like I mentioned earlier. You reduce the stress in the body. It needs to balance. You need to focus on things that are going to increase your energy, elevate your mood, reduce your hunger, reduce the cravings. And again, all of these things could fall under one thing. You might find you change one thing and all of these things happen, or you might find that you need to change a couple of things. And I'm not saying you got to change 10 things, because that's not going to work either. You know, just start with focusing on one thing. What not to do is continue to believe your lies and bullshit. Okay. Don't lean into the excuses either. Don't change everything at once, like I just said. Do not deprive yourself or demonize foods. Do not skip social situations and become a member of what I call the NFL, which is no friends left. Now, talking about the friends, we're going to go into the next thing about the friends, because you might need to reevaluate. Because as you start in a journey of change, you're going to find that not everybody is going to be supportive. But you also have to look at the person and look at yourself and ask yourself, am I responsible for this person having this belief around my wanting to change? Or is this person more of a crab in the bucket, where it's like they don't want me to change? Because a lot of times when people change, it's uncomfortable to them. They don't like it when you change, because then it feels weird to them, and maybe they don't want to change and they're not in a place of change. And sometimes, unfortunately, these people are the ones that are closest to us, like our spouses, significant others, mothers, you know, that kind of thing. And so this is really true, though, that if you see a bucket of crabs and one of those crabs tries to get out, the other crabs will yank that one back in. And so you might find that you have a crab in a bucket. You might have a crab or two. You're trying to get out. You're trying to get into a better place in your life, but yet you have something or someone that is continuously yanking you down, and you are allowing it because you're not setting the boundary, or maybe you're not recognizing it. Okay. Then there's also the wagon community. I used to be a part of it. In fact, I'm, the creator of the wagon community, right? So it used to be I fell off the wagon, and then there was like, oh, you fell off too. Oh, you did me too. Oh, yeah. And I didn't realize that it was an actual, this is a whole fucking community. Yeah, girl, you know what? Totally fell off over the weekend, but you know what? Let's start together. Yep, let's do it together. And then you repeat that, right? And so this community, what they do is they validate your excuses. They validate the bullshit. They validate you, getting into that mode of the start over syndrome. And hey, it's all right. Yeah, and you know what? Don't worry. Just start over on Monday. You're good. And that's part of that community that you really need to recognize and kind of put at arm's length. Okay. So as I said earlier, what is the secret to success? And that is state management. So yeah, there's all of these keys that I had mentioned, all of that. But the most important thing is your state management. Why? Because it triggers everything. Your state management your state management is responsible for your physiology, hence the behavior and outcome that comes from it. So do you see how the mindset piece is so important, and for you to recognize all of this? Because if this is something you have zero awareness of, then you're going to keep continuing the same reality, because your thoughts create your reality. They truly, truly do. Once again, your RAS that's in your brain, the reticular activating system, is going to give you more of what you choose to focus on. So be very, very careful. Now, us humans, we always want to suffer for some reason. I don't know. It's just something that is just mind blowing to me. I read the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, and it changed my life. Changed my life because I was always living back here. I was always in this sadness. I was repeating the guilt and shame and the actions of when I was much younger and making these stupid mistakes. And, you know, a lot of it was when I was drinking, and, you know, I would do dumb things, and then I'd wake up like, what? I did what? Oh my God. Or who are you? Or, you know what I mean? Like, it was just it was an awful, awful way to live. And I had a lot of guilt and shame attached to that. And once I really recognized, like, I had to stop focusing on that. I just had to forgive myself. I had to give a lot of apologies and really be forthcoming and really show up differently, because that's the other thing too, when it comes to your community and such, you know, maybe these people react and respond to you the way that they do, and are not supportive because the way that you're showing up, in the sense that maybe you're not consistent. And if you're always starting something and then they see that you quit all the time, well, then that's how they believe you show up. And when you go to start something, oh, okay, here we go again, you know? And so be mindful what you're focusing on. Be mindful of the things that you want. Always think of the things that you want, because then your RAS is going to be like, okay, yep, that's what you want. We're going to give you more of that. So if you're somebody that's focusing on, oh, I just can't catch a break, then you're going to get more of that. It just is what it is. So what types of things do you think about or say to yourself daily? Do you even have that awareness? You know, some people don't even have that awareness that they might be saying negative things, or, you know, they're calling themselves a loser, or I'm fat, or, you know, just god awful things that they're saying to themselves, you know, every single day, constant, nonstop. And so you have to be super, super mindful of these things, because again, you're going to get more of what you think of. So I want you to declare in the comments, you know, what it is that you want. I am beautiful, confident, warm and loving, patient, thin, whatever. Put it in the comments. I would love to see it. Because your overall success, I just want to say this again, is state dependent. And again, we're going to see the NLP head because of this. It's the way that you frame something. It's the meaning that you apply to something that is happening or going on. You have the choice. So it's kind of like victim or owning responsibility. Either you're going to be living your life in a pointing the finger, I am a victim kind of circumstance, or I need to own responsibility. So an example that I have given in the past was, let's say you're driving and you get pulled over by the police. Okay. Now you could have two very different perspectives. You could have somebody that would say, all right, whatever. Cop just needed meet their quota. It's the end of the month. All right, whatever. Instead of saying, you know what? Ooh, yeah, I was going a little fast. I should have been more mindful. I'm going to own responsibility on that. You know, responsible. I'm owning responsibility for my actions. I am placing blame on others. I am a victim. Yuck, right? Maybe you're like that. Maybe you were like that. Maybe you are like that. But think of that, right? But we have the ability to frame that, right? And so maybe you might have both thoughts, and maybe you might believe this one at first, and then you could be like, wait a minute, let me reframe this. Let me reframe this. Okay, I am completely 1000% owning responsibility. I was going 70 and a 55. I mean, there is a speed limit for a reason, you know? So just kind of have to, you have that choice, okay? Because also too, remember that when you're in a negative state, nothing feels good. You're not going to conquer anything or solve any problems in that negative state. You know, again, you have a choice as to the way that you live your life, the way that you are responding and reacting to things. That's what it really comes down to. Most of the time, people don't recognize that they have a choice. It's all about that you are responding and reacting to. I feel a draft coming down here. I think my son left the door to the garage open, so I just sent him a message saying, close that door. So what is your emotional set point? Are you aware of this? Do you have the awareness of that you do have an emotional set point, that you have a place that your mind is always going to? What is your emotional home? Where are you always living? Are you present? Are you back here living in your guilt and shame from the past? Are you over here where there's all kinds of worry and uncertainty? You got to really figure that out. You really have to pay attention as to where your mind is. Okay. Your set point can be that of something that creates triggers. It will dictate patterns and habits and things. So just be super mindful of getting in tuned with where your emotional home is. Okay. So do you find yourself saying when it's the right time, or then and I'll do, and if I have this, then I'll be successful, or when I get this, then I'll do this, and then I'll be that? Got to get out of that. You know, it's about taking action, and it's about just being it. You know, declare what it is that you want. Be that individual. You have to step into the habits and practices of the person that you desire to become. You have to do that. This is change, especially when it comes to weight loss, has everything to do with identity change. And if you find yourself battling back and forth, it's because if you find yourself saying, well, part of me wants this and a part of me wants that, you literally have parts of you that have taken on their own identities, basically, and they're battling. I see it all the time. And I used to feel that. It was awful. It was the worst tug of war ever. So what I want to tell you is be it. Start just being it. I am this, because what follows I am, like Joel Osteen always said, whatever follows I am is going to follow you. So be it until you see it. Start being that person that you desire to be. Start being the person that makes the healthier choices. Start being the person that stops hitting the alarm snooze button. Stop being the person that, starts over all the time, and start being the person that shows up differently. Start being an influence, a positive influence on others. Start being the person that wakes up a little bit earlier, but still gets 7 to 9 hours of sleep. Do you see? So stop waiting to get started and stop waiting for that right time, the perfect time to feel ready for Sally's social event to be over with, for spring, fall, summer, winter, boating season, blah, 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 for someone else to tell you what to do, all of that stuff. Because honestly, what's really lying underneath all of this stuff is just fear of failure, disappointment, rejection, embarrassment, not being enough, not being loved. But the fact is that you just have to start stepping into your power and really start moving forward and really recognizing that it's a lot of inner work that needs to take place. The reason why most people can't lose weight is because they keep leaning into those old behaviors that they really so desperately want to divorce that they just don't know how to. And the reason why they don't know how to is because they don't recognize that it's happening, right? And they're also buying into fear. I don't know, right? But you have to do the work, and you got to earn your easy. And what I mean by earn your easy is earned. And so easy is earned. What that means is that when you do something consistently over and over again, it becomes easy, right? And the example that I use with this is if you constantly are using 5-pound dumbbells, it becomes easy. Maybe at first it was a struggle, but then it becomes easy because you earned it, because you kept working on it. You kept working at it. And it just becomes a natural thing. And then what do you want to do? You want to up the weight. You want to up the ante basically with everything in your life. You need to earn your easy in many areas. So stop trying to sidestep and looking for shortcuts and all that shit. You got to do the work. And then things start to just become easy. It just comes with ease. It just becomes natural. And so, like these DIY cakes, have you ever seen these, which are so funny to me? I find them absolutely hilarious. You know, why do they struggle to replicate these cakes? Well, it comes down to them looking for shortcuts. They're missing steps, and they're not properly executing steps. They're just kind of like, well, that's not going to really matter. Do you know how many times people say, well, you know, I just kind of think, well, if I just have a bite, then it's not going to matter. Well, it might not, but maybe it is mattering. You know, maybe that is the one thing that you need to kind of evaluate. If you're having too many BLTs, meaning bites, licks, and tastes, then that very well could be the problem. Okay. So have you ever wasted time by doing that kind of process, kind of DIYing it, winging it, you know, just whatever with your goals? I've done it. The result of saying, you know what, I know what to do, I just got to do it. That's just a bunch of bullshit, and it creates overwhelm, burnout, waste of time. Then you always end up starting over, repeating the whole process, right? So that said, it kind of ties into the dieter's expectations and beliefs, which the dieter's mindset is very much into like, I want results now. I have to exercise more, eat less. I have to have this rule book. I have to demonize, you know, all of that stuff. They have this false expectation that their body will release 5 pounds the first week and every week after that. And if it doesn't, oh my God, I'm so frustrated, you know, and always leaning into that. Everything has to be perfect. The rule book, no indulgences, the guilt, the shame, the whole 9 yards, right? Don't forget that patterns of power. Where do you want to be? I want to be over here on that empowered side. Always recognizing that I'm going to have some uncomfortable hallways. They're going to show up, but I'm going to work through it. I'm going to look for the lessons. I'm going to work through it, and I'm going to definitely be on that success side. So the non-dieter, the person that has already done some work and recognizing this whole process, is that when they make a decision, they recognize that there's going to be temptations, that things are going to be difficult at times, that there's going to be some difficult choice that they have to make. There's no perfect journey, but they keep moving forward regardless. They don't just say, oh, fuck it, forget it, I'm done, over, whatever. Okay, so this person is always walking through and breaking through the difficult hallways and always getting on that success side. Okay, so how would you rather go about it? DIYing or, you know, going through a proven method with proper steps? Save you time and money, ultimately. So when you try to always lean into the DIY, you're going to waste a ton of time. Like I said, in the long run, when you have a proven method, it's going to save you money and time. Time is so valuable. Like my husband and I were going back and forth about, we're going on a trip. I'm all about convenience and willing to pay for it, you know? And so we talked about like this whole parking thing. Do we park at the airport? Do we park at whatever? To me, having to do the shuttle bus and all that stuff, I don't want to deal with that. That's time. Just don't. So it went from comparing the prices to the parking garage to the shuttle. I said, nope, I don't want to do that. Parking garage it is. Then it went to, you know what? Let's look into getting a hotel the night before, you know, to see what I'm saying. So I see how, okay, you got to think of time. Time is so valuable. And I talked about Bill Gates the other night about, he is one of the most wealthiest people in the world. He can have anything, but what he can't buy is time. And I really, really heard this through a documentary. And again, whatever his beliefs are, all that other stuff, that's neither here nor there. But what really, really made my ears perk up was that his assistant said, you know, Bill is well aware that he can't get time back, nor can he buy it. So he's very precise when it comes to the time he wakes up, to the meetings. Like he's never late. He's always on time, you know, all of these things. And so he has like these systems and stuff. And so I really need for you to start seeing the value of time, because before you know it, it's 10 years later and you're 50 pounds heavier. It's a fact, right? So time is the one thing you're never going to get back. So stop chasing your tail. Stop saying, oh, I know what to do. I just got to do it, because you probably don't know. And probably what used to work before isn't working anymore, right? So I want to know what you want to feel like and look like within the next 3 to 6 months? What does it feel? What do you want to feel? I know for some of the gals, they commented saying they wanted to feel free. Yeah. Fuck yeah. Free feels good. Free. They want to feel freedom. Freedom of not feeling restricted. They want to feel free of being tied to going to only specific stores. They want to be able to shop wherever they desire, right? Freedom of choices. There's nothing like it. Nothing like it. Going back to option 1, option 2, the stressed out, living in the constant stress mode, or option 1, peace mode, more freedom, more feeling free, more ease, happiness, hope, all of that, stress, anxiety, guilt, shame. Okay, so I know for me, the game changer was when I learned the foods that spoke to me, my own blueprint. Realizing the beliefs was a massive, massive one for me. And implementing specific lifestyle habits and practices that I knew were good for me and getting rid of those that weren't. And that's when I created my method, which is the review, redesign, and renew. And these are the 3 steps that I use in my program. So you're always reviewing what you have going on. You redesign, whether that be redesign your nutrition, your belief systems, whatever it is. And then you're renewing yourself. And you should be constantly, and when I say should, this is a system or a strategy rather that is very effective with always doing it in your life. You should be a different person today than you were last week. You should definitely be a different person than you were last year. And utilizing this kind of a system is going to help you to do that. Your weight loss strategy needs the 3 things: getting honest, testing new things, and embracing the new you. You got to embrace that new identity more than the old you. You're always going to have that because your brain records everything kind of like a cassette tape, from like 1984. So it's always going to be in there. It's just a matter of catching it and hearing it and recognizing it, saying, no, that's not what I choose anymore. I choose this. Okay. So it can be an amazing process that affects all areas of your life. How many times have you seen somebody, change something and then all of a sudden their life just takes off and you're wondering, like, did they just, the fuck just happened? It's like, everything just changed. What, well, they took action. They would fall, they would get back up, they would fall, they would get back up, they would leap, they would weave their own net, they would take these risks, they didn't listen to the fear, they just kept going. Right? They learned a lot in the process. Then they started impacting others along the way. So this was a testimony from one of my clients, and I loved this so much, and that's why I wanted to share it with you. Is I remember when I got this, I was like, oh, I love how she worded this. And she said, her energy, relationships, and work have all been changed for the better. And that was because she was going through that system, which is the renew, the redesign, right? So those 3 steps, the 3 steps, right? It's not a fluffy theory. It's been proven and tested over and over and over and time again. It works. Okay. So here's Kimmy on the right again. Kimmy is actually my co-coach. I think I did mention that. And you guys, I'm telling you, she's amazing. And then there's Julie on the left. This was so great. And she came to me. She's like, I'm just stuck. I'm getting married. And she ordered her dress 2 sizes too small. And that's when she had sent me this picture and said, I fucking love you, because she was able to get into her dress. And she just looked amazing. Absolutely gorgeous. And then you've seen Alicia. That's the front side. On the left side, I just showed you her back side. And this is Deb. She's still following the process. Actually, she looks thinner even now because she's still utilizing my method. She still works with me. At the time, she was trying to transition from coming out of keto. She just could not find that right tipping point for her. And she was able to get through that. And as Alicia had PCOS and was having difficulty with the insulin issues and was then finally able to get pregnant, it was just awesome. And then there's Rachel on the right and Kimberly on the left. And, these transformations, like Kimberly, I think that was just in the first 3 weeks at the time. And then Rachel, over time, you know, it's she and her journey is still going. And of course, she took from the program, and we worked together for quite a while too. But I know that she still uses some of the methods and practices. So earlier I had asked, like, what do you want to look like and feel like in the next 3 months, right? So like based on the systems and strategies that you would always go back to, would you be able to achieve what it is that you wrote down, right? Would you? Okay. Or would you agree that with the step-by-step strategy, guidance, and accountability, like how much faster do you think that you'd be able to get there, reach it, surpass it, all of that? Okay. So I just want to announce, if you do not know this already, that my academy is now open for enrollment. And I'm giving a special rate this round because I am testing out a new platform and I'm super, super excited about it. And I am looking for people that want to jump on board and help to provide feedback with this new platform. So I'm offering at a 50% rate, and this rate will never be offered again. So if you're somebody that is like, oh, I've been watching for a while, I really want to, stop listening to your fucking fear. Okay. Like just stop. So this is for you if you're ready to finally stop starting over, lose the weight, get back into your skinny jeans, feel sexy naked, all of the things, and really just change your life overall. This is not a diet. This is a lifestyle change that you will have forever. Okay, so you've got a choice. DIY it, continue to waste time and money, or step into fast track results with a step-by-step program. Okay, so I'm going to give you a sneak peek here. So this is like that review phase that I had talked about, right? So we review where you are, start to set your goals, where you want to be. This is a group-oriented program. We go into your metabolic blueprint, your hormones and fat storing, your beliefs and behaviors. We touch a lot on that because that is a massive part of your journey. The redesign, this is where we go into your nutrition, rewiring your habits and practices, work on your motivation and boundaries. Actually, boundaries is the next one. And then the renew phase, because when you start to step into that whole new you have to be the part, right? And oftentimes this is where people struggle, and that's when they go back up and they go to that, I got to start over, right? Because I want to avoid those difficult conversations and social situations. I just don't know how to operate in there. And so I help you with that. I help you to step in with confidence, right? So helping to keep yourself that priority, learn how to firmly set those boundaries, all of that. No more all or nothing mindset. Okay. So with that said, I'm opening up, which the other night I opened it up where it was like within the first 10 minutes, you would get a breakthrough session with me if you signed up, and I'm going to reset that 10 minutes again. But along with the MRA program, you get my closed eye process audio series. And that is, I'm a hypnotherapist. So you get these guided meditations, which help to help you with your subconscious mind, which, as you know, how powerful that is. I already talked about that. And also my tapping into weight loss. In addition to, which I should have put this in here, I have a little program called Mindset Reset. So you get the MRA, the Mindset Reset, the tapping into weight loss, and the hypnosis, all for life. Okay. And then if you purchase within the next 10 minutes, then you will be somebody that will get that extra bonus, which is a 30-minute one-on-one breakthrough session. Okay. So the tapping into weight loss, tapping has to do with the acupuncture and acupressure points. It basically helps to reset the energy, helps you with your thoughts and thinking. It's fantastic. It's especially great if you have a lot of stress and anxiety. Then your closed eye process, this basically, it helps you to change that state. I meditate daily, sometimes twice a day. It's freaking it's just amazing and phenomenal. Okay. And so with the program, you get the 5 weeks, help you to become that non-dieter, balance those hormones, give you the nutrition step by step. You get a Facebook community, you get 5 live coaching calls with me. You also get all those bonuses that I talked about for just $497. That is it. And you're never going to see that rate again. $497. And all you have to do is go to kellydelknap.com/MRA to save your spot. I do keep these spots limited. And again, I think that's just a repeat of the slides. And so Marianne, love her dearly. She's talked about how, she said Kelly's coaching and MRA plan was a great investment in my journey to health. I learned new ways to relate to food. And a big thing here is that she discovered some staple foods that she thought were healthy, but were actually undermining her success. There's Adrienne on the left. Lauren on the right. I just love seeing these. They just make my heart so happy. There's Michelle. She was already in great shape, but we really helped to really get that midsection a little bit more lean for her. Kelly has introduced a different dynamic to her eating. Stress was a big issue for her and really turned things around. So the MRA, if you do the work, you are going to get the results. This program has been around for almost 4 years is when I created it. And like I had mentioned, I was testing out a new platform, which is the Healthy platform. And that is why I'm offering it at the 50% off rate this round, because it's new. I have not ever used this platform with this program, and I want to try it out and see if it's something that I want to use. And so there's the Healthy platform. You have your Kajabi, which is where you will have your weekly modules released. It's what I call like your member suite or your member portal, because you'll have your PDFs and your quizzes and bonus materials and your videos that you will watch. And then there's the Facebook group, which is your VIP community. So current discounted rate is $497. The next round is going to be $997. So this is a really great opportunity for you. And you don't want to wait, and you don't want to be kicking yourself going, man, I wish I would have, jumped on board with that. So save your spot. The MRA gets results. It's a proven method. Again, if you go to kellydunlap.com/MRA, you're going to see, this is what it looks like when you go to sign up and enroll. Super, super simple. And from this point, I'm going to go ahead and start that clock that is for that extra bonus. Okay. So I'm looking at my watch now. We did so good. We got through all 3 days in less than 2 hours, which is fantastic, which is so, so, so fantastic. So I just want to make sure here that we are good. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stop the share and just talk to you for just a moment. So you got a lot of great information. Yes, you can take some of this information and start applying it to your life right now. It will make a difference. Okay. But there's no greater difference that will impact you than when you have a thriving community of women that are moving along in the same direction, that have the same likes and interests and desires, having the accountability, and also working with a coach. It's priceless. I have coaches. I actually have 3 right now. And people might think that's kind of a lot, but maybe it is in your mind. But I see the value. I know what a difference it makes. I have gotten over the fear of investing. I have gotten over the fact that I thought that I am not worthy of investing in myself, right? And I think a lot of times people struggle with that, where they think like, oh, I can't invest in myself. I can't, I need to put that towards whatever. But then in the meantime, they're suffering and struggling and bitchy and stressed out and all this stuff. And it's like, invest in yourself. I'm telling you, you invest in yourself, you're going to be happier, healthier, more lively. That saying, a happy wife, happy life, all that stuff. So I am going to keep an eye out for any questions that might arise. If you are on the fence and you really like, I'm not really sure if this is the correct program for me, no problem. I'm willing to chat with you. We can jump on a quick Zoom even and talk a little bit more in depth. But you can also just comment, make a comment in the comments there if you would like. If you're somebody, I know one gal who signed up, her question was, well, what if I'm on vacation for part of the 5 weeks? Not a problem. Those calls are recorded. You will always have access. No problem at all. So once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch. I would love your feedback. I would love to find out what your biggest takeaways were, because the more information that you give me, the better that I'm better able to serve you, if that makes sense. The more information you give me, I am better able to serve you. So once again, if you have more questions, do not hesitate to reach out. And thank you so much. I'm honored that you took the time to listen. And I really, really, really hope that this resonated with you. So have a wonderful rest of your day, and we'll talk to you soon.